My fellow Americans.
Well, I'm not a crook. I've earned everything I've got.
A man holds in his mortal hand the power to abolish all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
One day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
He says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." I suppose we all thought that.
I mean, they say that every day is just another rotten mess, and when it's gonna change, my friend, is anybody guess. So I'm watching and waiting, hoping for the best. And this is As the World Burns.
Cool.
That's Frank Zappa for you.
I'm still reading this post.
Is it any good?
Yes. Go back to the image. I'm going to look at it again.
That's a classic image.
So this image was shared to whoever wrote this.
This is famous, this image.
I've never seen it before.
Yeah, this is pretty famous.
What's it from?
I don't know, but I've seen this before.
Look it up. It's called the Flammarion.
How do you know what it's from?
It's because he calls it the Flammarion.
Oh.
It's an engraving. It's a wood engraving. Wait, what?
The Flammarion Engraving.
Nobody knows who it's from.
An unknown artist. It is documented appearances in the book L'Atmosphère Meteorological Populaire, published in 1888 by the French astronomer and writer Camille Flammarion or whatever. Several authors during the 20th century considered it to be either a medieval or Renaissance artwork, but the current consensus is that it is a 19th century illustration that imitates older artistic styles and themes. The illustration depicts a man dressed as a pilgrim in a long robe and carrying a walking stick, who has reached a point to where the flat earth meets the firmament. The pilgrim kneels down and passes his head, shoulders, right arm, and the top of the walking stick through an opening of the firmament, which is depicted as covered on the inside by the stars, sun, and moon. Behind the sky, the pilgrim finds a marvelous realm of circling clouds, fires, and suns. One of the elements of the cosmic machinery resembles traditional pictorial representations of the wheel in the middle of a wheel, described in the visions of the Hebrew prophet Ezekiel. The wood engraving has often but erroneously been referred to as a woodcut. It has been widely used as a metaphorical illustration of either scientific or the mystical quest for knowledge. More recently, it has also been used to represent a psychedelic experience. Cool. It's a pretty cool image. So wait, what was that whole story about that you just read?
So just randomly while they were at the grocery store. Wait, let me read it again. I forgot exactly how it started, but they just started he said it was like looking in the sun and then trying to look at something else and how it like overtakes your vision. And so it was like 50-50 like that, and then it slowly started to take over until you just couldn't even like do anything because all he saw was this other world. And he just starts describing this world. He says it lasted about 15 minutes, and then he just like laid down and it made him feel better. He was back to normal.
On August 23rd, 2024, I experienced something that amazed me, fascinated me, and terrified me. I exited my car and headed to a small version of one of the local grocery stores. As I left my car, something started to form and mess with my eyesight. It was so intense that I had trouble navigating through the aisles to get back to the store where the deli was. What I saw grew in intensity and took about 50% of the physical, visible world. The best way to describe what I saw or how to experience it would be if you stared at the sun for a few minutes and then looked around, but this was far more than that. It looked as if there was a tear in reality. Starting from the left and growing bigger to the right, edges of the anomaly were made up of intense colors so vibrant and blinding. They range from yellows, greens, reds, oranges, and yellows. They range from yellows, green, reds, oranges, and yellows. That's an interesting way to put that. The edges would best be described as fluid, staticky, and maybe like plasma. Now, I could also see into this opening. It appeared to be a barren wasteland, or it might have been an industrial older warehouse. Further, I saw what I can only describe as large things turning possibly Possibly industrial fans. They were brown or rusty in color and slowly turning in counterclockwise direction. Could it just be something messing with my optical nerves? Yes, that's something I thought of. Also, I checked if it was one eye or the other, but it was both. I closed one and still saw it, and then repeated this with the other eye and still saw it. I swear I'm not making this up, it actually scared me. My mind was racing that there was something wrong with me. I left the grocery store and could still see this. I drove home, which was only 3 blocks, and I went upstairs and told my wife I had a headache. I didn't, though, and I needed to lay down. I prayed that this would go away, and after a couple more minutes it did. In total, I'd say it lasted for about 15 minutes. The picture shared was suggested to me when I talked about this experience last night. It's the Flammarion. The illustration depicts a man dressed as a pilgrim in a long robe carrying a walking stick who has reached a point where the flat earth meets the firmament. The pilgrim kneels down and passes his head, shoulders, right arm, and the top of the walking stick through an opening in the firmament. But, I don't know. That is pretty interesting. A lot of people are saying it was called an optical headache, and at the same time you see auras with the optical headache. So that's weird. That's wild. This one's called The Dark Forest is Real, and We Just Rang the Bell. Why we never hear from aliens. They're hunting us. Too long didn't read. Our 1940s radio signals reached 1,400 plus star systems. Something is coming back. December 2025. We fucked up. The radio timeline that dooms us. 1920s to 40s, humanity starts broadcasting powerful radio and TV signals into space. We thought we were being clever announcing our presence to the cosmos. We were wrong. By 2025, our signals have reached 1,300 plus star systems within 50 to 100 light years, 2,000 individual stars, up to 300 potentially habitable worlds, and every civilization within that sphere now knows we exist. The Dark Forest Theory, Why Space is Silent. Liu Cixin got it right in the 3-body problem. The universe is a dark forest where 1. Every civilization is a hunter, moving silently through the trees. 2. Any civilization that reveals itself gets destroyed by others. And 3. The universe appears empty because everyone is hiding. And 4. Survival means staying silent and invisible. We broke the cardinal rule. We lit a campfire in the dark forest and screamed, "Here we are." Why they're coming for our planet. Think about what our radio signals told them. 1940s broadcasts contained World War II communications were violent and organized. Nuclear test coordinations, we have dangerous weapons. Television shows were entertainment focused and predictable. Industrial communications, we've already strip-mined our planet. To an advanced predator species, Earth looks like a planet of aggressive but primitive beings, rich in biological resources, and pre-space age, easy to contain and control, and already domesticated animals ready for harvest. Self-organizing labor force, humans perfect for enslavement. The harvest model, why they want our animals. Think like an interstellar rancher. Earth offers the ultimate livestock collection. 7+ million species of animals across every environment, billions of humans as intelligent labor/food, and domesticated animals already bred for docility, marine life in vast oceans, and genetic diversity accumulated over millions of years. For a spacefaring civilization, Earth is a fully stocked biological warehouse, pre-processed genetic material, and self-sustaining ecosystem requiring minimal intervention, and intelligent caretakers, humans who've already organized everything for them. We've done the work for them. Our agriculture, animal husbandry, species cataloging, genetic research were the perfect middle management for our own enslavement. Why we never detected them. The Dark Forest explains the Fermi paradox. We never hear alien signals because broadcasters get hunted and eliminated. Survivors stay silent and hidden, and predator species don't announce themselves. The galaxy is full of civilizations hiding from each other. Advanced civilizations learned long ago, don't transmit unless you want to die. Hunt quietly and strike without warning and harvest resources from younger civilizations. Stay mobile to avoid becoming targets themselves. Earth's mistake. We assumed aliens would be peaceful explorers. We never considered they might be interstellar livestock farmers. The 80-year response timeline. The 1940s are signals reached nearby star systems. 1950s to 60s, predator civilization detects and analyzes us. In the 70s and 80s, they launch harvesting expedition, and in 2025, they arrive for collection. A 45-year journey time at near light speed technology equals perfect timing. Why December 2025? The winter solstice approach, maximum psychological impact. Christmas timing equals humans distracted and emotionally vulnerable. A cold season equals animals easier to contain and transport. An end of the year equals humans in reflective and acceptance mindset. The current evidence pattern is global governments know something is coming. Nuclear submarines repositioned, too late to fight, positioning for survival. Washington, D.C. is under permanent federal control, protecting leadership, and classified satellites launched. Final communications monitoring. Multiple conflict zones activated, chaos/distracting while they arrive, and information suppression escalating, preventing panic that would disrupt harvest. The coordination suggests they've made contact with our governments already. Terms have been negotiated. Some humans survive in exchange for cooperation. And December 19th is the agreed transfer date. Governments are preparing their populations for managed transition. What the harvest looks like. Phase 1, arrival, December 19, 2025. Peaceful first contact narrative to prevent resistance. Technology demonstrations to establish dominance and government cooperation to maintain order. Phase 2 in the next coming months. Cataloging biological resources. Evaluating human management capabilities and setting up containment/transport infrastructure. And Phase 3, over the years, collection. Species relocation to off-world facilities, human workforce organization, and Earth becomes managed like a biological preserve. Most humans become livestock and laborers. Why this makes horrible sense. From their perspective, we're perfect. We've already domesticated ourselves. We've cataloged our own species. We fight each other instead of uniting against threats. We're destroying our own environment. We have established control hierarchies they can co-opt. We're not a threat to neutralize, we're a resource to harvest. The final warning. 127 days until December 19th. That's when this was written, about a month ago. 2025. We broke the silence of the dark forest 80 years ago. Something heard us, something is coming. And governments worldwide are preparing to hand us over. The Feast of Worlds is about to begin, and we're the main course. Sleep well tonight while you still can. The math works, the timing works, the response pattern works. December 19th, 2025, mark your calendar. It might be humanity's last free Christmas. It's pretty interesting. That's a doomsday prediction right there from somebody. When I read this scared the shit out of me. That's why I wanted to post it. I randomly saw this when I was looking up something else, and I read that, and I was like, oh my God. That makes a lot of sense. 80 years, it seems like, would be the response time, and it seems like we are at that point. But who knows? I like how they brought up the 3-body problem. It's funny how everybody brings up the 3-body problem. You really sense something with that. So it makes sense. Everybody else would, too.
Yeah, you should watch it tonight.
I should watch it tonight. Maybe. I'll see what's up. I'll definitely watch that, regardless. But I don't know about tonight, but definitely, either way. If so many people are referencing it. But yeah, it was
I'm not that pessimistic.
What do you think though about that?
I think that it's like animalistic behavior on a intergalactic scale.
If we unlock our presence, what's to stop another race from just coming in from light years away and just coming and just snuffing us out or taking all of our resources like that guy was saying? So the math kind of checks out. 80 years, a few hundreds of light years away.
That's the thing. So listen, what the missing element there would be is the things that are already here and not doing that to us.
Yeah, but they could just be things that are protecting us. Remember, there was that theory that I keep telling you about where they don't like the direction that we're heading in. And maybe they warned us about other aliens that would sense our presence when we started, launching nukes.
The way that works, right? we have something here that's already here, kind of watches over us. It's like cold alien shit. You know what I mean? Probably more than one kind of thing. You know what I mean? With all the evidence that we have, but we also have evidence of something coming in from far away, and that like it's going to take time to get here, right? If it was from over 80 years to get here, obviously it's something entirely different than whatever we have here. And it could be that the aliens are letting us know, like you said, but they're not letting us know to be like, yeah, here's something you guys got to deal with. Now we're going to fuck off. It's probably more like there might be a war between the aliens. You know what I mean? And we might get drafted into this. Or they're going to tell us, like, you guys all got to get underground. Because, like, the surface of your planet could be subject to, like, some crazy shit due to whatever's coming here.
That's why they're making bunkers and shit, because
Yes.
all the aliens are telling the governments that their people has to go on ground, so the governments aren't trying to scare the shit out of people. They're just telling their higher echelons of people. And then all of the rest of us think that it's because they think that there's going to be like societal collapse, when in reality it's going to be an alien invasion.
But I think there's also people who like know about these aliens, and they're like, no, we're not going to like put ourselves into prisons underground. We're going to get off the planet. We're going to get out of here before it gets here. But at the same time, I think that's kind of stupid, because it's like, how far do you think we're going to get by ourselves right now?
I don't think we're going to get that far. I mean, even with the UFO technology that we probably have,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah, it's probably still not enough to get like to. We can probably traverse the solar system right now, I bet, but nothing crazy. I bet you we wouldn't be able to get out of the solar system. We wouldn't really know where to go, I feel like, even if we did. So that was interesting. We'll see if that comes to pass. Here was one that I thought was pretty interesting. This was one that because I was looking for links about how a zombie apocalypse could happen, and I stumbled upon this link, and I thought this was pretty interesting. The government is slowly shifting time forward in our sleep to throw our circadian rhythm off and turn us into mindless zombies. Now, before I'm called crazy, hear me out. My reasoning is that every offline clock, traditional/digital, that runs only off batteries with no internet or radio capabilities, shows a different time than our online digital clocks, anything connected to the internet. The time is always the same on each offline clock, even when it seems to get further apart from the correct time on the digital clocks. At first, I thought it was an issue with my house. I blamed it on things like maybe I just had bad luck or didn't set them right, until the first time I started getting suspicious. I had an event with friends to attend, and I started noticing that their clocks were the same amount behind as mine. That happened again and again, no matter how many times, no matter how many different houses I went to. If they had an offline clock, it'd show a time before the time shown on things like our phones. Has anyone experienced this? Nobody commented on this, guys. In hindsight, I feel like he's actually wrong, because I feel like, remember we read about about that thing about like atomic clocks and shit like that, and like quantum clocks?
I don't remember.
So we read a thing about how they want to come up with a quantum clock that will be able to be basically like I think that's what it was. I think it was a quantum clock. And it would basically be like the best version of like a clock that you could have, because apparently clocks have lag, like a certain amount of lag. So I'm wondering if like all these clocks that he's talking about, he's discovering that there's a lag on them and he's not even realizing it. That, or the government's trying to throw off our circadian rhythm and turn us all into mindless zombies.
That makes more sense.
That was a random one. Let's see. Aliens are just jinns.
That's all. Case closed. Go back to work.
So this is coming from 7 months ago. As a researcher of old folklore, I've come to the conclusion that this explosion of sightings are the jinns, Arabic term for unseen shape-shifting beings made of plasma material with the ability to travel through dimensions, time, and space. They have been described in the Quran and many Arabic lore as beings who have occupied our planet before us. Why they are displaying themselves so aggressively now, I am not sure. Warning us maybe, or signaling a big change is to come. Jinn are described as conscious beings who dwell both in our plane and other dimensions we can't see. I just wonder if this boom in sightings is a direct attempt to connect with us. Update. I did not expect the amount of interest this post would get. I know there is no 100% definitive answer here. I think what is important is that we are able to recognize that we are experiencing right now with all the UFO phenomenon is linked to something that has been around since humans have been, likely before our time as well. The government clearly isn't telling us the whole story, but we are able to look into the past and see what these are ancient beings have always been visiting us and making themselves present in our dimension. Call them what you want. They are the same entity. These are just my thoughts. Or are jinns just aliens? Alien is a tired term, someone says. Yeah, I mean we've talked at length about how the aliens are just jinn or vice versa. Jinn are just aliens.
It's like you could do the same thing with fairies. Like, oh yeah, aliens are just fairies. It's like they're
Yeah.
all. It's a bunch of different things, but they can be very similar. And maybe they are like the same thing, but they're like us, where there's just like many different kinds of them.
This is a pretty interesting post I found. It's called "What They Don't Want You to Know." It's a from a month ago. It's the Secret Science Syndicate is a shadowy organization believed by conspiracy theorists to control the flow of scientific discovery and technological advancement across the globe. Founded in the early 20th century, the Secret Science Syndicate allegedly operates behind closed doors, hidden within major universities, government labs, and private tech corporations. In 1923, a secret meeting took place in Geneva, Switzerland, under the guise of an international science conference. A group of brilliant minds, Einstein, Tesla, Marie Curie, and a few forgotten names, discussed one disturbing idea. Humanity was not ready for the full scope of science they were discovering. To protect the world, or so they claimed, they formed the Secret Science Syndicate, pledging to lock away any discovery that could destabilize civilization. They began hiding technologies like free unlimited energy, Tesla's wireless power towers, artificial wormholes, and time travel prototypes, biological immortality derived from jellyfish DNA, consciousness mapping technology to transfer minds between bodies. The Secret Science Syndicate allegedly has a three-tier structure. The outer ring, made up of respected scientists unknowingly working on the compartmentalized projects. 2, the inner circle, senior members who manage global tech rollouts to ensure progress remains controllable. And 3, the core, a hidden council of transhumanist elites who live off-grid, said to be over 150 years old thanks to bioengineered longevity. Holy shit, this is crazy. They influence scientific journals, censoring research that gets too close to forbidden topics. Universities funding and then burying promising discoveries. Tech companies buying out or accidentally destroying startups with disruptive innovations. Rumors persist that beneath the ice of Antarctica lies a secret science syndicate facility called the Black Vault, where failed or abandoned experiments are stored. Whistleblowers who attempt to speak out are often ridiculed, disappear, or die mysteriously. One leaked memo refers to Project Lazarus, believed to be an attempt to resurrect consciousness from preserved brain matter. The 2009 disappearance of the Large Hadron Collider for 43 hours, blamed on a technical fault, was allegedly a secret science syndicate intervention to stop a parallel universe breach. Patents like the U.S. Patent 6960975, a nuclear-powered flying saucer, quietly filed and then classified, and then anonymous research papers uploaded to the dark web about nonlinear time perception induced by electromagnetic fields. I want to know more about that Black Vault. That sounds like the coolest shit ever.
It's called Warehouse 13.
Is that what it's called?
No.
CIA UFO Black Vault document titled "Russia is the Cause of Flying Saucers" describes a UFO weapon that can knock out guided missiles. The writer of the document also says, "Do not risk anyone's life to find out how I can get particulars."
Wait, say that again? Do not ask me to risk anyone's life to get particulars?
How I can get particulars. But you know what's funny is the first document says highly improbable that Russians have anything to do with this. So it's just somebody speculating. like
Yeah.
within the government. So we talked earlier about Dan Aykroyd, how his family is like steeped into the occult. Well, I actually found like an article about it that we can read real quick. That's just about like,
Yeah, let's listen.
yeah,
Let's listen. Let me listen while you read. Let's listen to you reading.
let's listen to you reading. All right, this is coming from the Medium, chillinkristen.medium.com. So somebody named Chillin Kristen wrote this. So let's hope she's accurate. I'm gonna take her at her word that she was chilling and filling all of this with factual information. Dan Aykroyd's family has
Nice, dude.
Thank you. Dan Aykroyd's family has a haunted history of spiritualism. Dan Aykroyd's interest in the paranormal is part of a family legacy. He's perhaps best known for his role as Ray in the Ghostbusters movies, which he also wrote, but his personal history with the supernatural goes back much further. He's into ghosts and stuff because his father was into ghosts and stuff. I already don't like how this person wrote this. Because his father was into ghosts and stuff because his father was into ghosts and stuff. Dan Aykroyd is the fourth generation of a family that ain't afraid of no ghosts. All right, that was good. The first Aykroyd to dabble in the supernatural was Dan's great-grandfather, Samuel Aykroyd. He switched careers in his early 30s, pivoting from teaching to dentistry. He opened a practice with the goal of helping anxious patients. Topical anesthetics weren't a thing yet, so dentistry at this time could be a painful affair. He started researching and came across mentions of dentists who use hypnosis to calm their patients and get them into a relaxed state for treatment. It seemed this line of research sparked his curiosity about the mental state that hypnosis brings about, and he wondered about whether that trance-like state could allow a person to become a conduit for the dead to communicate with the living. Samuel often spoke about the spirit world with a friend named Walter Ashurst. When Samuel said he wanted to start holding seances on his farm, Walter said he thought he could act as a medium and master of ceremonies. We don't know a lot about Samuel's friend Walter's paranormal bona fides. Apparently, as a child, he said he had visions, which his father dismissed as nightmares. Believed he was clairvoyant and felt he could communicate with unseen entities. It does seem like he had the right resume, so he became Samuel's house guest in 1921 and stayed for 12 years, acting as the house medium for their near weekly seances. Luckily, we know of some of what happened right from the source. Samuel kept journals detailing his exploration with ghosts from 1905 to 33, recording the events of about 80 seances. The journals revealed that revolving cast of spirit world regulars seemed to contact Walter when he entered a trance-like state. The spirits included an Irishman named Mike Whalen, an ancient Egyptian prince named Blue Light, and several Native Americans. But an entity Walter identified as a former member of the Chinese Ming dynasty named Li Long was the star showing up most frequently. When Li Long visited, Walter spoke in Chinese, which no one at the table understood, and Walter was not known to speak. At best, he spoke genuine Chinese guided by the spirit, or at worst, he was blathering offensive gibberish. Other phenomena also took place during the seances. One time, a trumpet-like instrument supposedly floated over the heads of the attendees. Sometimes a whitish substance appeared in the dark, which was suspected to be ectoplasm. Ectoplasm is definitely a thing in Ghostbusters, but it's a little different in the context of a seance. There it's said to be a substance produced by the medium's body at the will of a spirit. Supposedly they can use this material as another means of communication. However, these ectoplasmic occurrences were too fleeting for Samuel. In his journals he expressed some dissatisfaction because what was produced wasn't tangible. It was barely visible in the dark and didn't have provable physical properties. He badly wanted to provoke the materialization of a spirit, its physical embodiment coming into play. To this end, the seances were held on a schedule with the same friends each time. The theory being that it would hopefully make spirits more open and comfortable with the group. Walter responded for them, saying that the spirits told him that they were trying to materialize and were asking for patience. Sadly, Samuel didn't get to experience this before he passed in 1933. The seance group he put together initially continued to meet but slowly dissolved over the next 10 years. However, Samuel's family carried on his life's work. After his father's death, Maurice Aykroyd, Dan Aykroyd's grandfather, tried to build a device capable of capturing ghost voices. He was aided by his own son Peter, Dan Aykroyd's dad, who attended some of Samuel's seances when he was very young. They worked on this device together until the ghosts themselves communicated to Maurice that it just wasn't possible. However, this didn't squelch Peter's interest in the subject matter, especially not after inheriting his father's journals and massive library of spiritual literature. And because of that, Dan Aykroyd was surrounded by a genuine belief in the supernatural as he grew up. He said that some of the people that National Geographic magazines around the house, but he was used to the American Society for Psychical Research journals lying around. His family's history undeniably influenced his Ghostbusters script. Some of the preoccupations and language of his great-grandfather Samuel's journals are present. Think full-bodied apparition, the use of ectoplasm, as well as his grandfather's work on devices through the gadgets the Ghostbusters use. He even currently lives in Samuel's home. The Aykroyd family was initially going to knock down the old farmhouse and rebuild on the land, but after Dan had an experience in the house that felt like he had been struck by lightning, which to him indicated that something supernatural had happened, he decided to renovate it instead. He also harbors his family's greatest wish. In 2009, Dan, his brother Peter Jr., and their father Peter compiled Samuel's journals into a book called The Story of Seances, Mediums, Ghosts, and Ghostbusters. While on a press tour for the book, they acknowledged that they still have the same ambition their ancestor did, to witness documented proof of a ghost materialization. Sadly, Peter has since passed. However, further research on materializations and apparitions is needed to complete his great-grandfather's legacy, Dan has said. I would like to see more hard physicists come in and start to analyze what's going on. Are oxygen and nitrogen and hydrogen molecules coalescing to produce these visions in front of people? I'd love it if some research were done on materialization, which is the most exciting part of this, where full-formed limbs come out of a medium's mouth and even a full-formed body. It would be nice to get some DNA and see if it's the DNA of the person exuding this mass of ectoplasm or the DNA of another being. One thing seems certain, a fascination with ghosts is in the One thing seems certain. A fascination with ghosts is in the Aykroyd DNA. That was a pretty good article. I like that one a lot. I will say, definitely did their research, and it was pretty good. I thought that there was more. I thought there was one other generation, though, of they did say 4 generations of people. I thought there was another member who wrote like a book that was a really famous book.
Yeah, I've never even heard of that. I just knew Dan Aykroyd liked ghosts and aliens.
So that's pretty cool, though.
That is really cool.
Yeah. The Enigma of Fuente Magna.
What's that?
In 1950, near Chua by Lake Titicaca, Bolivia, a farmer unearthed a large stone basin while working his field. Unaware of its significance, he repurposed it as a trough for pigs. This artifact, later named the Fuente Magna, would eventually spark intense debate. For nearly 40 years, the vessel remained unnoticed in a small local museum. However, upon closer examination, researchers discovered something extraordinary. Its interior was engraved with what appeared to be cuneiform writing. We already read this. Didn't we already read this?
I don't remember.
I'm having intense deja vu if we didn't. Its interior was engraved with what appeared to be cuneiform writing closely resembling Sumerian or Proto-Sumerian script used in Mesopotamia over 5,000 years ago. Clyde Ahmed Winters, an expert in ancient inscriptions, analyzed the Fuente Magna and noted striking similarities between its symbols and those found in ancient Sumerian, Dravidian, Elamite, and Berber scripts. Bolivian archaeologist Max Portugal Zamora also studied the artifact and estimated its age to be at least 5,000 years. This discovery raises a perplexing question. How could a vessel with Proto-Sumerian inscriptions be found near Lake Titicaca, 3,800 meters above sea level, on an entirely different continent from ancient Mesopotamia? mainstream archaeology has yet to offer a definitive explanation. One possible theory is that the artifact was transported across the world thousands of years ago. Some researchers propose that early navigators, possibly from the lost region of Sundaland in the Pacific, reached the Americas, bringing with them knowledge, goods, and even plant species like the coconut palm. Others speculate that the Sumerians themselves may have possessed far greater seafaring abilities than currently believed. The Fuente Magna challenges conventional history, suggesting that ancient civilizations may have been more interconnected than previously thought. If early humans were capable of long-distance travel and cultural exchange, what caused these connections to vanish, forcing humanity to start anew?
Well, I'm a big proponent of prehistory civilizations that existed, and the whole Graham Hancock, they preceded the flood and they survived the flood because they're like the people that were already just living on water, essentially just traveling the world. They were expert seafarers, probably to the point where they were like just living in arks.
Yeah. I think, and you know what? If the Sumerians did make contact with aliens, there's a chance that they could have just, somehow gone all throughout the world. You know what I mean? If that theory's correct.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to a different one. Psionics, the Wu and You. Did we read this one? I gotta start,
What was it I had you say last night? Or the night before?
what is it?
You said something that was funny last night. It was like something about being a psionic warrior.
I totally forgot. I am a psionic warrior, though.
For real?
So this post is called Psionics, the Wu and You. It was 7 months ago. Phoenix Dioramas. I should probably start saying who wrote these. Give them a little bit more credit. Jake Barber, Psionic Assets, Consciousness, quote, the Wu. I get the apprehension a lot of people has of late in regards to the claims made recently concerning psionics. Now, I just want to say also this is pretty interesting to bring up Jake Barber because just the other day we had that thing in Congress where they released like all the UFO footage, or the House Oversight, or some random fucking place in the government released a bunch of footage, and we all saw it. You know, that Hellfire missile shot hit the UFO or plasmoid or whatever the hell it was. It shifted into a bunch of different parts and got all loosey-goosey, and the rocket just tapped it and dipped off. Didn't blow it up or nothing. Well, in that meeting, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure they showed the egg too, the Jake Barber one. Remember the egg? We all know the egg. You love the egg.
I always believed the egg.
Yeah, you believe in the egg. And the story goes, I'm sure they're probably going to talk about it in here, but I saw this story the other day, so it made me think of it again too. Jake Barber, I guess, supposedly picked up this egg thing that they found in what was it, like Antarctica or something like that. They were hoisting it up, and he apparently was flying it back, and he just he was overcome with this overwhelming sense of sadness and melancholy, and he didn't like what he was doing there and just started reconsidering his entire mission and everything that he was doing. Supposedly, that's how the story supposedly goes. Maybe he's just a government asset and a whistleblower.
He felt that way because he was fucking with an angel.
Is that what we think the egg is? The egg does.
Yeah, the egg is like the thing that we saw in the Hellfire missile.
Is it though, or is it just a different thing? I feel like the egg is a different thing.
No, same thing. Watch how it moves. It's so delicate.
That's crazy. So what happened? Is that the egg the exact same thing you think is the Hellfire missile thing?
I think it's possible that's the same kind of thing.
No, I mean the exact same thing. Is that...
It's not. I don't know if it's the same exact one. I don't think so. I'm just saying that
could it remold itself?
I think one's just not active for whatever reason.
Yeah. Oh, I was thinking if maybe it could remold itself or something like that. But I don't know.
They have a similar shape in both of them. The egg, whenever I saw the egg, it's not like it's a hard shaped egg. It seems I think they even say it's like a balloon almost. They say it in that one too.
It's pretty funny that the aliens, their defense capabilities come from tapping into our fears and anxieties. Like, that's some next level shit, but that makes sense. Like, they wouldn't want to harm us, but they'll just like
Well,
they'll
that's
they'll
what
basically
that's what
keep us
gray
away.
aliens do. That's what a lot of the aliens do. They make it like when they want you near them, they forcefully make you feel calm.
Or if they don't want you near them, they spread fear and anxiety, so you'll just be like, "Fuck this shit, I'm out of here."
Exactly.
It's interesting. So this is coming from this post. I get the apprehension a lot of people have as of late in regards to the claims made recently concerning psionics. I tend to believe the things that can be explained scientifically, even if it's theoretical science. The Albacea drive as an explanation for UAP movement would be one example. So if you told me 6 months ago I would be trying to organize this into a coherent post, I would have laughed you out of the room. UAPs was one thing, but psychic abilities? What? What is the Albacea drive? The Albacea drive is a speculative warp drive idea according to which a spacecraft could achieve apparent faster than light travel by contracting space in front of it and expanding space behind it. This is what I've been talking about. Under the assumption that configurable energy density field lower than that of a vacuum, that is negative mass, could be created. So you can't have a lot of mass, you need to have negative mass. Proposed by theoretical physicist Miguel Alcubierre in 1994, the Alcubierre drive is based on the solution of Einstein's field equations. Since those solutions are metric tensors, Alcubierre drive is also referred to as the Alcubierre metric. Objects cannot accelerate to the speed of light within normal spacetime. Instead, the Alcubierre drive shifts space around an object so that the object would arrive at its destination more quickly than light would in normal space without breaking any physical laws. Although the metric proposed by Alcubierre is consistent with Einstein's field equations, construction of such a drive is not necessarily possible. The proposed mechanism of the Alcubierre drive implies a negative energy density and therefore requires exotic matter or manipulation of dark energy. If exotic matter with the correct properties does not exist, then the drive cannot be constructed. At the close of his original article, however, Alcubierre argued, following an argument developed by physicists analyzing traversable wormholes, that the Casimir vacuum between parallel plates could fulfill the negative energy requirement for the Alcubierre drive. Another possible issue is that although the Alcubierre metric is consistent with Einstein's equations, general relativity does not incorporate quantum mechanics. Some physicists have presented arguments to suggest that the theory of quantum gravity, which would incorporate both theories, would eliminate those solutions in general relativity that allow for backward time travel. See the chronology protection conjecture and thus make the Alcubierre drive invalid. I don't get that last part. What were they saying? Some physicists have presented arguments to suggest that the theory of quantum gravity, which would incorporate both theories, would eliminate those solutions in general relativity that allow for backward time travel, and thus make the Alcubierre drive invalid.
Time travel just doesn't make sense to me. I'm never gonna. None of it's ever gonna make sense to me.
It makes sense to me with the many worlds interpretation, with time travel just not being.
I don't think time exists.
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying, is that everything is happening all at once across every dimension, everywhere. But there's parallel realities that potentially we could tap into. So we could tap into a parallel reality where everything happened almost exactly the same, and then just go to maybe a time where the Cowboys are in their time. But it's not necessarily that we're time traveling. We're just hopping to another dimension. You know what I mean?
Like, oh, we can't go to medieval times, but we can go to a world where it's like Game of Thrones.
Or we can go to a world where the current time is 1500 or 1548, and the king that was the king in 1548 is the current king. But it's just because it's happening in that universe at that time, because everything everywhere is like the movie
Everything everywhere
happening.
all at once.
Yeah, it's all happening at one time. So time it doesn't actually exist. It's just about like a linear path that you're on. And there could be parallel realities where there's other linear paths, and I think that's where like branch timelines could come in, where you thousands of decisions that you make every day or every even second, or decisions that you don't make, just create another theoretical timeline or another theoretical universe where you did do something or didn't do something, you know? And that suggests that there's literally like quintillion amount of, it's not even, it's infinite amount of parallel timelines where an infinite amount of decisions could be made, because we make an infinite amount of decisions on a daily basis, and we make an infinite amount of non-decisions on a daily basis. So if you think about it, that's probably the most likely scenario, is something like that, like a Rick and Morty, Doctor Who kind of shit. That's what I think. And I think like if all these like conspiracies of time travelers, like they say like John Teeter, or they got that guy who ran for president that said that Barack Obama was a CIA time traveler, and him and the DARPA chick were also CIA time travelers, and they were all kids in a CIA time travel kid conspiracy thing. See,
Yeah, sounds fun.
it sounds pretty cool. I mean, the idea that Barack Obama would be like a kid time traveler and go to the future and see that like he became president, and then the CIA would be like, all right, well, if you're going to be president, we're just going to start like grooming you to be president now. Like, that's kind of wild. That's kind of crazy. And there's even like a theory, I forgot who it was, but there was a guy who said that he saw, it might even be the same guy, the time travel guy. He said that he saw like every president from, I think it was Ronald Reagan to Obama, in like the same room together, talking about how they are or were going to be presidents. It's crazy. Crazy shit. Yeah. Who knows? Who knows what could happen? But this is about the UAP and Jake Barber. However, a couple weeks ago, right before the Jake Barber interview, I learned two things that changed the way I thought about telepathy, remote viewing, and the like. When I saw the interview, I just so happened to be in the headspace where it made some sense. Then I saw the negative reaction to his claims, and while I completely understood them, my perspective had changed, and I didn't share the same vehement dislike of psionic talk. To be clear, I am in no way trying to convince anyone that psionic assets or UAP summoning is real, and you have to believe it. What I aim to do here is share how I came to the loose conclusion that I have. First thing I learned was that there's a growing number of scientists who believe consciousness is related to quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics are extremely interesting, and Richard Feynman famously said, "If you think you understand quantum mechanics, you don't understand quantum mechanics." Google's quantum chip willow aside, quantum everything can get super bizarre. You have the double slit experiment, quantum foam, and now quantum consciousness. Now look, I'm with Richard Feynman on this, meaning I don't even pretend that I fully understand this stuff, but I find it infinitely fascinating. I also happen to trust the work of quantum physicists that put in the work and publish studies. That being said, if sentient consciousness itself is somehow related to quantum foam or a quantum wave function, things start getting pretty, quote, woo. The second thing I learned was that our brains contain something called microtubules. This was when I listened to the Ecosystemic Futures podcast, episode 69. If you haven't already, I highly recommend giving it a listen. It's a podcast sponsored by NASA, and that episode in particular discusses disruptive technologies and UAP research. Very briefly, how disruptive technology sounds cool. Very briefly, Hal Puthoff mentioned that our brains contain something called microtubules, tiny protein tubes that exist within our neurons that can detect quantum vibrations. When I looked this up and found the studies on it, it blew my mind, especially because the quantum vibration and microtubules studies seem to support the quantum consciousness theory. Hearing Hal, of all people, say this made me sit up because, as many of you may know, Hal Puthoff was part of the infamous Project Stargate, the CIA's remote
Can I
viewing
just say
program.
real quick about microtubules?
Yep.
Tim Taylor, I believe his name was. It's probably why Tim Taylor has such a rigid health, like his his diet is so specific and like so healthy, and like he doesn't drink or do drugs. Like he's super straight edge and ultra healthy. And it's because, according to him, it makes his connection to these other entities stronger.
That makes sense. Your body's like a temple.
But it's probably because his microtubules are fucking pristine.
His microtubules are pristine. I highly recommend watching this 3-part series by Area 52 on Project Stargate. Now, putting it all together, so with the knowledge that microtubules can detect quantum vibrations and how that supports the assumption that consciousness is related to a quantum field foam/mechanics of sorts, I had the theoretical science needed to make things like remote viewing, mind reading, etc. seem like magic and seem less like magic and more like science, quantum science. All of that being said, I will leave you with a list of things to think about forward, and maybe you too will embrace the woo. Dr. Gary Nolan of the Stanford University School of Medicine has said that in order to understand this phenomenon, we need to embrace the woo. Hal Puthoff worked with the CIA on Project Stargate researching remote viewing. It's been theorized that UAPs are piloted with consciousness. Kona Blue was a PSAP, Prospective Special Access Program, in July of 2011 and terminated in December of 2011. Of the 7 separate operational centers proposed, one was a consciousness center. The justification for the consciousness center was as follows: remote vision, remote communication, and D/rematerialization techniques to observe, communicate, retrieve, and transfer matter across dimensional space and time barriers. What? Will undoubtedly be of an utmost interest, if not a top collection priority for adversarial intelligence/security services.
Tim Taylor, he went with Gary Nolan to the Vatican with Diana Pasulka.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. Oh, yeah, we were talking about this. So he's one of the connective glues to all this. He says to embrace the woo.
But here's the thing. Gary Nolan rejects Diana Pasulka's claims.
I mean, he should. If, he wants to still do all this shit, if he's telling people to embrace the woo and Tim Taylor is not saying anything, then it would make sense that he'd be like, nah, that ain't right. You know what I'm saying? He's covering for his boy.
Yeah.
But yeah, these are all broken down into bullet points. That's why they sound like this. The telepathy tapes has shown in repeatable experiments that nonverbal children with autism are capable of reading the mind of their parent and sometimes others. It's absolutely wild. Experiencers of NHI abduction frequently report being communicated with telepathically. UFOs Investigating the Unknown Season 2 has a great 2-part episode on experiencers. While I understand witness testimony isn't always good enough for skeptics, the sheer volume of similar reports is worth thinking about. Similar to NHI experiencers, people who have had near-death experiences also report insanely similar things, from a feeling of overwhelming love, a 360-degree perception when they are out of body at the time of death, a life review on the other side, and the ability to have an out-of-body experience very easily or spontaneously since having their NDE. Again, this is a hard one for skeptics to get behind, even me, but with the incredible volume of similar reports from people who have verifiably died for minutes or hours at a time, it's worth thinking about. If you died for hours, wouldn't you be like brain dead at that point? If consciousness is quantum, then perhaps some sort of afterlife is merely a quantum state of being. Check out this YouTube page and listen to some stories. I can't give you that link through vocals, but the YouTube page is, let me actually go to it.
Can I tell you something?
The Other Side NDE. Yeah, go ahead.
Tomorrow, Skate comes out.
Oh my god, I know. You're excited for it. I'll have to get it. You'll probably be playing it, so I'll probably play it a little bit too. As we know, Jake Barber has claimed that psionics teams sometimes use children and others to summon UAPs psionically. He claimed that one of the things necessary for this was a feeling of love. He also claimed that when retrieving the egg UAP that he was hit with an overwhelming sense of love and acceptance. I thought it was sadness. I thought he said, like, maybe it was love and acceptance from the egg about himself, but who knows. But egg UAPs have been reported for decades. These police officers in 1993, Officer Lonnie Zamora saw an egg-shaped craft on April 24th, 1964. Jacques Vallée has written about a 1945 egg-shaped craft sighting, and wouldn't you know it, user Violet Estelle made a post right here in this sub 2 years ago about seeing an egg-shaped craft with her late husband in 2017. Bob Lazar said that he read that the NHI view us as containers in an interview with Knapp. When Knapp pressed him, he said, containers of souls or something. Make of that what you will. Paraphrasing. Lieutenant Colonel John Blitch also said this more recently. John Blitch also described an encounter with a mantis being that told him, we can't take your soul, so calm down. That's funny. The infamous 4chan whistleblower said the NHI believe there is a soul field around Earth and that they are attempting to achieve some kind of apotheosis, to be taken with a grain of salt as the person never went public. What's an apotheosis?
The highest point in the development of something, culmination or climax.
So what does that mean for us if they're trying to use us to achieve their apotheosis? Does that mean they're trying to achieve their higher evolution through us?
This kind of goes along with what I was telling you before. We're just because they're more advanced than us doesn't mean there ain't something that we got that they don't.
Yeah, but that could also be an issue. You know what I'm saying?
No, absolutely. But
they could just want to harvest us like, all those, soul capturing and Saturn cult conspiracies talk about.
Like we talked about with aliens a bit, a lot of them do have souls.
Yeah. Maybe. I mean, the CIA apparently says that aliens don't, and that's what they're jealous of that of us.
Like, what the fuck? That doesn't even make, that sounds like propaganda.
That sounds like propaganda. I mean, it kind of does, actually.
They
It
have
sounds like it
souls.
would be. Aliens are just cold and unfeeling.
They're just jealous of our American spirit and freedom.
They're just jealous of it. I mean, that sounds about right.
That sounds like what they would say.
These aliens, let me tell you, son, the moment you meet them, you gotta look into their eyes and realize that you have the American patriot spirit inside of you. And they do not. They are from Venus or some shit. You gotta look at that Venusian in the eyes, and you gotta see the universe and say to yourself, I am an American. Fucking Venusians. This is a post called Towards Scientific Proof of the Soul. Is there any evidence of the soul? The ancient question can finally, with the 20th century technology, come closer to an answer. Doesn't mean 21st. But due to the current state of things, we have to start with disarming the reflex resistance that has emerged, especially on the internet. Scientific decadence. The scientific community, when not labeling the question religious and ignoring it completely, has a tendency to define the soul as something abstract and philosophical, perhaps to steer away from any discussion about eventual proof, which would go against their own belief. In the great objective scientific entity, with the scholars as priests and their journals as holy books, that entity, or rather its many cardinals, disqualifies any discussion about things even remotely related to what the age of enlightenment wanted to replace with reason. They use their devotees for this, and as you read this, they are probably typing on their keyboards already, robot-like defenders of the prevailing doctrines. Well, quote, skeptics, as you call yourselves, now's your chance to show that you are more than drones. There is one relatively unknown area where the soul could be defined scientifically. Gas discharge visualization. Kirlian photography has been known since the 1930s. By putting an object on a photographic plate and running high voltage through it, the electrons around the object light up. After being excited by a current in its electrode, The result is a picture where you can see glowing sparks around the object, visualizing the electromagnetic field around any object. As technology progressed, digital photography made Kirlian photography simpler and more reliable. Eventually, a technique called gas discharge visualization was realized through a camera placed underneath an electrode glass plate, large enough to place a finger on top of. When a current briefly flows through the electrode, the electrons around the finger starts to glow, and the camera takes a picture. So far, no scientist in the world can object to this as unscientific. Electrons emit visible light when excited by an electrical current. A camera takes a picture of it. A comparison, X-ray images. Another type of picture we can take with the help of technology is an X-ray image. As we all know, doctors correlate information in such an image to the state of the body. A few decades ago, Russian and Brazilian scientists began to research if there was any correlation between GDV images and the state of the body, just as in X-ray images. What they found out was quite incredible. Clinical research they have conducted since the 90s has shown that correlation between GDV and conventional diagnostic techniques could be as high as 98%. GDV image of 2 fingerprints providing information about both organs and the emotional state of a person. So that's just a link. Back to the skeptics. Much more could be written about GDV and its potential for medical diagnostics. But being brief is kind of the point here. The skeptics have probably looked up and disregarded GDV as pseudoscience already. But that's what makes them nothing more than robot-like defenders of doctrines or false skeptics, as I'd like to call them. Why false? Because being skeptical means reviewing new information, not rejecting it based on previous information which may be incomplete or inaccurate. Therefore, I ask the skeptics to find some clinical studies of the subject. References can be found in books such as The Aura and Consciousness and Light After Life by Dr. Konstantin Kortkov. When you've done that, do your homework and review the studies. Show that you're not as narrow-minded as the religious extremists that you scoff at. Are you up for it, or do you prefer to sit with your arms crossed in front of the computer and pretend that you're not a hypocrite? Well, this guy's calling out people like crazy. That was about a year ago. I don't understand, though. He didn't really make an argument for a soul. He just talked about gas discharge visualization. I guess, could that, make you see a soul? Is that what he was arguing?
Who knows?
The rantings of a madman. Gas discharge visualization. A non-invasive technique that captures the electrophotonic emissions from the biological subjects in a high-frequency pulsed electric field to visualize their energy fields. The technology uses modern optics, electronics, and computer processing to analyze the resulting corona discharge, which is thought to represent a person's physiological and psycho-emotional state, potential health issues, and readiness for competitive activities. So it's your aura. They're basically talking about your aura, it seems like.
Maybe your aura is the radiation from your soul.